4. All signs point to the president wanting a speedy end to the war with Iran. The U.S. offered a 15-point list of demands, but Iran quickly turned it down, which frankly begs the question, are they going to negotiate on the president's terms at all? Well, it depends on who you ask.
They talk about negotiations. They talk about other things. This is precisely an admission of defeat. Weren't they calling for unconditional surrender? Then why are they now speaking about negotiations as the right course? I will explain that there is no negotiations.
That sounds like an emphatic no from a top Iranian official. Tonight, the president is adamant Iran is coming to the table.
And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us.
With me now, former U.S. Special Envoy for Iran under the Biden administration, Robert Malley. He was also a lead negotiator on the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Robert, thank you for joining. And in the U.S., they've got this 15-point list of expectations. Iran essentially rejecting that plan and offering its own conditions. So where do we go from here? I mean, will the regime even be willing to negotiate?
Laura, there really are two parallel universes right now. There's a universe in the president's head in which the United States has won the war several times, in which Iran is about to capitulate, in which he's chosen who's going to be negotiating, who's going to be the counterpart of the American negotiators. And then there's a real world in which the war is ongoing. You have death and destruction that is still ongoing, almost 1 million people displaced in Lebanon, people being killed in Iran, and Iran holding the world economy hostage, blocking the transfer of oil, sending the markets tumbling down, and there's no meeting point between those two worlds. The president still is in his parallel universe. At some point, he's going to have to realize Iran is not going to capitulate. Iran is not about to give up. And at that point, perhaps there's going to be some semblance of negotiations. But I feel we're a long way from that.
I mean, the White House is still moving forward to save any possible talks. But to your point, it suggests that the most important conversation you believe is between President Trump and himself then, not advisors or anything else.
That's right. I mean, he keeps talking about negotiations with Iran. Again, they may take place, but both sides are in very different places. The president thinks he's winning, which he is militarily. Iran thinks they're winning, which they are politically and economically. So there really is no meeting point. So he keeps talking about negotiations. At the same time, as you mentioned, he's assembling an expeditionary force. So we may any day now see American troops trying to occupy a part of Iran. And let's not forget, I mean, this is the reason why members of Congress should be angry, the American people should be angry. This war was unlawful, it has no justification, it has no point, and right now it has no exit.
Let's talk about who may be part of the negotiation talks, because you have Iranian officials who have expressed a preference, I understand, for Vice President J.D. Vance, possibly sidelining the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Now, they must know surely that Vance won't make any decisions in a vacuum. So is this a negotiating tactic or something deeper?
So first, I'd take all of that with a grain of salt. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of disinformation. But from Iran's point of view, I can imagine the last thing they want is to be sitting at the table again with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They sat with them just recently, and in the middle of the talks, the United States ordered strikes against Iran, and they were sitting with Steve Witkoff a year ago, and in the middle of those talks, there were strikes. So from their perspective, either they were playing a game, or they didn't know what the president wanted. In either case, it's not really those, they don't want to be sitting across the table from them. So maybe they're playing the game of saying, we don't trust them anymore. They were trying to lead us astray, or they didn't even know what was going on. We want to deal with somebody who is more authoritative and perhaps more sympathetic in their mind. Again, assuming this report is true, Vice President Vance is known for being more skeptical of wars in the Middle East. So perhaps they think that he's somebody who'd be more sympathetic to trying to find an ending to this war.
Perhaps. I mean, a very important part of these negotiations is the president himself. I mean, you talk about the president's unpredictability if and when Iran does not easily acquiesce to his demands. Does he have any good options at this point?
I mean, he always has one good option, which is when you're a president who makes up your own reality, you can always claim that you've won. And that's what he does almost every day. So at some point, since he's never stated very clearly what his objectives were, He could say, I've met all my objectives. I met them 2 weeks ago. I've met more than all my objectives, and so now I'm calling it. The game is over. I'm leaving. That's his option. The problem he has right now is that Iran feels like it's more or less in the driver's seat, and it might not want to end the war on the terms and on the calendar that President Trump imposes. So even if he wants to end the war, it's not clear that he's going to have on the other side a party that's prepared to do the same.
Robert Malley, thank you.